kid. Yeah. But just his celebration when he does that little, when he's, up in the air, he's just great. He's so fun to watch.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Peach State Power Hour. Guys, a loaded show, a lot to get through in a rather short amount of time. Eddie, we have a special guest on the screen today. And I know there's nobody better, more fitting to have an Eddie from Acworth personal introduction than the man himself.
Well, good evening, Harrison, Andy, and Bill Shanks. We want to thank Bill Shanks, the host of the radio show from 3 to 6 on the Superstations.
What's it called?
Yeah, what is that radio show?
What's it called?
The Bill. Can I finish?
A lot of research went into that name, and then you go and forget about it.
If y'all are just going to interrupt, then I'll just let y'all talk.
Dementia does to you.
The host of the radio show.
What the hell was that?
Host of the radio show on the Superstations called The Bill Shanks Show. Okay, from 3 to 6 every day. Now, I listen every day. I'm out of the area, so I go on his the website to listen to it because the app has been a work in progress for 5 years now, and it's still.
I fired that guy twice in the last 3 weeks, and he still won't leave.
Right, but Bill is the voice of the Superstations. You can also hear Jeff Dancer on there. Roos and Rowe do a show on there. Some great stuff. And if you guys are watching, there's a QR code in the top right, Bill. The listeners can click that, and it will take them right to the Superstations. They can save that to listen to you tomorrow.
Awesome.
So I've been a loyal Bill Shanks fan because he's one of the best. What I love about Bill Shanks is he carries and covers all the teams that we love, and not only
hate, and the one we hate.
Yeah, also the one we hate. He does do a little tech, but he's not only a great reporter for those teams, but he's also a fan just like us. So that's what I love about Bill. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend. We appreciate it. And I want to start this show by asking you a question because we're going to get heavy into the Braves tonight. That's kind of the focus of the show. We'll do some other things too. But, Bill, I want you to talk to us about the listeners' feedback about this Braves team because you and I have talked about this for a long time about how ownership doesn't seem to want to buy in, get the things that the Braves need to get another world championship. So from your perspective, what have you heard from the listeners? Is it anger? Is it apathy? Is it, it's the Braves, we'll be fine? What have you heard from the listeners about the Braves going into this season?
I think the tone really is a fear that the door is closing.
Yeah.
And that what happened in 2021 is a ways away now, and that many of those people who were part of that story are no longer with the team, and that it's changed dramatically, and that looking ahead, it's just tough to get too excited about their chances of being a World Series title contender. I think a year ago, I think we were excited about the possibilities of them being one of the top teams. I know that Fangraphs and a couple of others have said, well, besides the Dodgers, the Braves may have the best chance. Well, they haven't done a deep dive into the starting rotation if they feel that way, because there's no way that anybody's going to believe that this rotation as constructed right now is going to be a World Series contender. So I think it's the fear of, if this window is closing, what then? What's next? And then after that continues to kind of go forward, you've got the Acuna decision that's going to be there. You've got the Ozzie decision that's going to be there, and a real change in this team. And now, look, it's 2026. So you can't live off 2021 anymore. You've got to say what's coming for 2030s, for the next decade, for the 4 years from now when we are in a new decade, and what's that decade going to look like? And I think that's the main thing that fans have, and they have a distrust of this front office. When you hear the general manager say our main priority for the offseason is starting pitching, and it's February 22nd, and Martin Perez is the only thing they brought in on a non-roster invite minor league deal, you're not going to feel too good about what this front office is telling you.
Well, that's a good segue to what I was wanting to ask you, Bill, because they're telling us that they want to get more starting pitchers. That was, Alex Anthopoulos, that was what he said. No, we haven't. So, and now we just keep seeing guys get hurt every couple of days, it seems like. What does this this starting rotation look like? And I mean, do we really think these guys can go out and give, let's say, 120? Chris Sale, Spencer Strider, Ronaldo Lopez, Grant Holmes, and Elder. Can they give us 120 starts? And how good will those starts be? Because I'm not sold on any of those guys being healthy.
Well, me neither, Andy. And I that's the question I've been asking too. Is Alex Anthopoulos said, okay, we've got our top four. We've got Chris Sale, we've got Spencer Strider, Reynaldo Lopez, and Grant Holmes. All right, so convince me they're going to make between the four of them 120 starts. Well, that's going to average 30 starts per guy, and I don't believe that's going to happen. I just there's no way I believe that it's going to happen. I mean, Chris Sale, when healthy, is one of the best pitchers in the sport, right?
Yeah.
There's no question. I don't think there's any debate about that. When he's healthy, when he's upright, when he's on the mound, he's one of the best in the sport. So if you can keep him healthy, that's great. Strider, we got to see what he does when he comes back for his first full year after what happened last year. You've got to see if he can be more consistent and get his stuff back in order and just be more of like he was before his second elbow operation. Reynaldo Lopez coming off shoulder surgery with one start. I mean, you take a starter that went in the bullpen, that went back to rotation, then he got hurt, and then you're going to ask him to start again because you don't have anybody else. I mean, if this rotation had been fully addressed over the offseason, I think Reynaldo would be in the bullpen today.
Yeah.
So, so you've got that, and then you've got Grant Holmes, who's just hanging on by a thread of his hair, by the way, which needs to be cut. But I mean, and then the funny thing is Bryce Elder led the team in starts last year with 28, and he wasn't even in the conversation for our top four starters.
Right.
Which, look, I've dogged Bryce Elder a little bit because I don't really think he could hit a plate of glass if it was in Drake Baldwin's glove. But I think maybe we need to respect him a little bit because at least he's going to the rubber every 5 days, and so, but even that is not going to get me too excited about this rotation. Yeah. J.R. Ritchie pitched today. He looked good. He's going to be a great pitcher, I believe. I really love this kid, and I have talked about him a lot. But I just think you can't count on him on February 22nd. You got to be careful about that. And if they weren't going to count on Herschel Waldrop, and look what happened to him 10 days ago, right? He got hurt, and he was going to go start the year in AAA. So, this organization has been built the last 35 years with pitching. And now we're seeing it look like a weakness going into the season, and everybody and their brother can see it.
Bill, kind of going off that, switching sides, everybody talks about the pitching, and rightfully so. Their arms have been run it back. We get everybody back from injury. It feels like year after year after year, that's been their additions, has been the guys come off the injury list. But the lineup, obviously, it was kind of ins and outs the last 2 years. Ronald comes back after a full offseason. Like, where's the confidence for you in terms of when you look at that lineup? Do you see some of the consistency coming back? Because it just felt so feast or famine last year, even when they were all together, in terms of either they were slugging and hitting home runs or hard hit outs. And if there's one thing we know, piss off Eddie from Acworth is a hard hit out.
Well, I do like the lineup. I do think it looks really good. Acuna's going to move back to the top spot. I think they're either going to have, I don't know, maybe Olsen or Baldwin in the number 2 hole. And I think they're going to try to, I like the lineup. I like the position players. I like Kyle Farmer being a backup for a farm dog. I love that. I love Jonah Heim coming in as a backup catcher until Stephanie Murphy returns. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in what the position players are 1 through 13. And I think they're going to score runs. I think they're going to be able to be consistent offensively. Of course, health is a big factor. They've got to keep Austin Riley healthy, which is a big deal. I mean, Riley's been hurt the last 2 years. I love Austin Riley. I think he's a great player, but there was a comment that Dennis Scott of The Enemy made a couple of weeks ago on a basketball broadcast with West Durham. They were doing an ACC game, and I was watching it, and he was talking about somebody. I don't know. It wasn't Darren Peterson, or as I call him, Denise. It was about something that was going on, and he said, part of ability is availability.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that quote. I'm going to latch on to that quote, whether it's about Denise Peterson or Austin Riley.
Yeah.
You got to have people stay healthy. That's what about this rotation. Hey, if you tell me right now this rotation is going to be healthy all the way through, I'm going to feel a lot better about this season,
Well,
right?
yeah.
I'm going to feel like, okay, let's get 32 starts out of Sale, 33 out of Strider. Let's get 30 out of Lopez and maybe 30 out of Holmes. Okay, I can deal with Holmes as my fourth starter if he's healthy.
Yeah.
But it's still, that's the part. It's the availability, and professional sports, they're so brittle right now, and they just can't stay in the lineup. And load management's taking on a whole new life of its own, it seems, these days. But the lineup looks good. I think the lineup is really, really special and could be really dangerous, and a lineup that opposing pitchers do not want to face. Hey, it'll be better when Kim gets back. I think he'll be better than Dubon at shortstop, of course, and it'll be a longer, lengthier lineup. But yeah, I mean, Harrison, I really like the lineup if it stays healthy.
I guess going
So,
off
Bill,
real quick, if I may, is there
Go ahead.
anybody, and maybe Eddie's about to ask this, kind of going back to the pitching,
I doubt
is there anybody on the market, Bill, in your opinion, that AA should throw out this whole ordeal about it's been, has a deal hasn't materialized, or whatever standards he's using, that the Braves should go out and add? Because you've seen the rumors about Lucas Giolito and all that, and I don't know if he moves the needle for anybody in terms of starting pitching. I loved your tweet last week. Stop worrying about October when you have to get through March.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think all that's a fraud. I think that's a cover. They don't want to spend the money on anybody. There's no logical explanation, Harrison, why they would not have been interested in Chris Bassett. Gabe Burns reported the AJC the other day that, well, they're not interested in Bassett and they're not interested in Giolito. Are they freaking nuts? Are they crazy? Why would you not want that? Okay, well, why haven't you signed Max Scherzer if you want a playoff starter? They're not going to sign Max Scherzer because he's going to cost money. They're going to be cheap about this. They're going to try to hold down the fort until they can see how this rotation goes and see who may be available even in May or June, and go from there. I think they're going to try to survive the first part of the season and try to get the bullpen to be the main part of the pitching staff. What they don't get, though, is how is that bullpen going to be strong when you're going to wear its ass out by May 15th?
Yeah, they're going to be throwing 5 or 6 innings a game. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's ridiculous of what they're doing. Lopez may be able to make 30 starts. How many innings is he going to give you per start? 4.2?
Yeah.
I mean, is that going to be worthwhile? To get back to your question, though, yeah, I mean, the Zach Littell kid is still out there. And you have, I think Giolito would be perfect. I think you could probably get Giolito for 1 year, $12 million. He's not going to be that expensive. He came back for you last year, or for Boston last year, was better than Strider coming back off of the internal brace surgery. He gave them innings. And so I think he could do that for you in the middle of your rotation. Look, if you're going to want a playoff starter, your playoff starter is going to be Chris Sale and Spencer Strider. So you got to keep them healthy. But if you're going to put more on them by having the bottom part of your rotation be weaker, you're going to be in trouble. So I love Littell or Giolito. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple more out there, but they may be fifth starter type guys. I think too, and I'll say this. Now I believe they're cheap. I think Terry McGuirk does not want to spend another dime. And I don't like Terry McGuirk. I think he is. I really think if he pulled his mask off, he'd be Rich McKay in drag. I really believe that. Okay. There's nothing I like about Terry McGuirk. I think he's an awful executive, an awful human being, and really needs to depart stage left. I think he's cheap as hell. Everybody wants to talk about the payroll. Oh, and I guarantee you, Harrison, they're going to come out in a couple of weeks and they're going to be, oh, we're 6th in payroll. What are you compared to your revenue? There's a chart that came out last year that had the Braves as far as payroll compared to revenue at 17th. Now, that's the percentage. They were like at 47% of their revenue is spent on payroll. Now, the Mets are 90% with Cohen, who doesn't give a flip. I get that. I don't want to be in that area. But you can't be in the top 10 of spending your enormous amount of revenue for that city you built to put in your payroll. They're cheap. They're cheap. There must be some piece of property somewhere around and within a 2-mile square radius they got a boner for that they're ready to shake out the $500 million for to go get to build a damn parking lot. It's ridiculous. And they can't get that if they build that rotation stronger, they will have a better chance of being successful. And they ought to know that last year when their record went to 76 and 86, their attendance went down. Well, no fucking shit. You know, why would you not understand that if you have your payroll go down and your record suffers, people aren't going to come to the games? What happens if that happens again this year? People aren't going to come, you know?
Well, Bill, I was wanting to ask you about this. Do you think they're being cheap just because they're just wanting to make the most money? Or do you think this has to do with the TV deal that's lingering, that they don't know what they're going to get paid from that?
I think that'll be an excuse. And I'm not saying that's not going to affect their numbers, right? It could affect their numbers, but you're making a fortune in that building. And even last year, the fourth quarter numbers haven't come out yet, but even last year they made a fortune, even with the attendance down, because they had the All-Star game there. Well, they made extra revenue because
of the All-Star game.
A ton. So that may have evened out the numbers compared to, we're 10 games under and we're going to have our revenues go down. Well, not when you have the All-Star game there, you know? So anyway, I think I think the TV deal is going to be used as an excuse, even if they verbally say it or not. I think also they're going to be overly cautious because of what could be going on a year from now with the strike or lockout that's going to ruin baseball. I think they're just, to be honest with you, I just think they're full of shit.
But you say that really about the strike that's looming. Why wouldn't they went out and signed Bassett to the 1-year, $18 million deal? Then you're off the hook. That is a easy get. The same with Giolito. 1 year, you're off the hook. It doesn't matter then, because if the season's over and they don't play again for another 2 years, you don't owe the guy. So it just makes no sense to me when it comes to those guys.
Let me interject here, Bill. You and Andy have been talking about how cheap ownership is. Here's the other problem with me on the pitching staff. Let's say Strider has an issue, God forbid, here in a couple of weeks.
And he might.
And they start looking at Giolito. Guess what Giolito is going to tell his agent? My price just went up because the Braves are screwed. So if they're too cheap to sign him now, what are they going to do in a couple of weeks when his price goes, you said 12, it could go to 18 or 20 million to come on board, right? Because he's in the driver's seat.
They're not going to pay it.
They're exactly right. So they're just screwing themselves right now. And it's just so maddening. But Bill, I want to ask you one question about this. So for a decade now, your friend, Brian Snitker, has run this organization. Okay. Did a great job, got us a World Series. It surpassed anything that I thought he would ever do. Phenomenal. So now we're moving to Walt Weiss. So what are your thoughts on Walt Weiss, and what different does he bring to the table that maybe Brian Snitker did not bring?
Well, we'll have to find out. I don't know. I mean, I like Walt. I think Walt's a good baseball man. I like the choice compared to that long-haired guy in Los Angeles who is older than or younger than Harrison. I think if they feel like they're going to be a championship contender moving forward, to bring in Walt and to keep that kind of on that level, I think is a better move than bringing in a new guy and starting over. If they would have brought in someone outside the organization, whether it was an older guy or a younger guy, it would have been a real complete reset. This is not and today I was watching part of the game and there were a lot of new faces in the dugout that I didn't know who they were, right? It's like, who is that guy? And I know we'll get to know him over time, but there's just new. So there's a newness there because Walt has changed his staff, and that's fine. But at least to have Walt in there and Eddie, helps a little bit to know that, okay, well, there's a little bit of continuity there. So I think Walt is very well respected. That was the thing that I liked more than anything when he was selected, is everybody really respects Walt Weiss. He was part of the Bash Brothers back in the late 80s. He's a heck of a player. Made the best defensive infield play in the history of Braves baseball. I can tell you that in 1999 in the playoffs against Houston. And he loves me to bring that up, by the way. I'm the only one that brings that up. But I mean, and I think, he learned from his first experience in Colorado And then he's been a bench coach with Snit for several years, almost a decade. So, I mean, he's got more experience now, and I think he's much better suited to be a head coach or a manager now than the first time. So I'm not really worried too much about that. I think he'll do a good job, and I don't think we're going to lose any games because of Walt Weiss by any means.
Yeah. I think that's all you can really ask for when it comes to your manager. I mean, as long as you're not losing because of him, I think that's pretty successful.
Right. I agree. Yeah. I mean, lineup construction is important. How he handles the pitching staff is important, but that's based on who's performing and who's healthy.
Yeah.
I think one thing I was actually talking with last night, I was at the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame and ceremony here in Macon, and Leo Mazzoni and Dale Murphy and Brian Jordan, the four of us, just giants in the game of baseball. We were all sitting around talking about baseball, and it's so different now because of the availability. And Leo was even talking about the fact, and I was telling him, I said, people would get on Snit when he would say, well, so-and-so's not available today. And he said, yeah, but you don't know who you're going to have available because they have to go so much because the rotation guys, the starters can't go deeper into the games. Yeah. And that makes you have to juggle your bullpen even more of, well, who is available tonight? Well, if he's gone 2 nights in a row, can he go a third night or not? Or if he's going to be a third game in a row, how many games is he going to be out for? I mean, it is tough to handle a pitching staff now with what goes on with the starting pitchers pitching fewer innings per start, and it's tough. It's not an easy job, but I don't think Walt Weiss is going to cost them necessarily at all by being the manager of this team.
Good to hear.
Bill, kind of staying on the obviously we're still talking Braves here, but I want you to settle a long debate on this show. He who shall not be named, top right corner if you need a hint, has been of the opinion since I've joined this show that the Braves should someday trade
Harrison.
Ronald
I'm going to interrupt you. You're not going to like what Bill says, so go ahead.
Yeah, I know.
Oh boy, Bill, should the Braves trade Ronald Acuna?
I'll bet you money that if we did a poll about this, it would be totally split based on age of the respondent. The younger people like you, Harrison, are going to say, heck no, we cannot trade Ronald Acuna. He is our guy. He is our Chipper Jones. He is our Andrew Jones, our Dale Murphy, etc. And I understand that. But I want to tell you something. I'd trade his lily white ass yesterday.
Bill, let me interject here. Let me say something, though, Bill. You say that. Harrison, as a young kid, has been watching this team just like we have. He's seen the Freddie Freemans, the Max Frieds, the Dansby Swansons walk away from this team. So the younger generation has seen exactly what this organization has done. And that's where you and I come into play here, that we're like, trade the guy because he's just going to walk and say, bye-bye, Atlanta. Why would the younger generation not understand that as well as we do?
Because their fandom of him overpowers the logic that they may see if they really were to look at it objectively. Look, 36 years ago, when the Braves were talking about trading Dale Murphy and I was 20 years old, I didn't want to see Dale Murphy go. I remember going on the radio the Monday after they had traded him over the weekend, and the guy said, boy, your hero got traded over the weekend. I said, I know, I don't know what to do. But, at that point, the Braves weren't very good. It was a different type situation.
Yeah.
But here's my big thing, Harrison. I think there's no way they're going to re-sign him to an extension when his contract is up. I think that the highest paid player on the Braves right now is like at $22.5 million. We know that Ronald's going to require much more than that.
35 at least. Yeah.
I think what Jim Bowden said, I think Jim Bowden's nuts, because Jim Bowden also said he thought that they ought to move Ozzie to shortstop, and he obviously hasn't seen Ozzie throw the ball like a girl for the last 10 years.
Throws it under him.
Lollipop. He can't move him to short. If he said that, he needs to be off the radio.
He'd be better. Ozzie would be better off going to shortstop and flipping the ball to Riley, so Riley could throw the ball to first before he could get to first.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't think there's any way they're going to give him a contract for what he's probably going to want and probably deserve. And I'm afraid, Harrison, that this era of Braves baseball is going to be defined, especially if they do not win another championship in this decade, by, well, they won it in 2021 and let everybody who was part of that championship and part of that era go, like Freddie, like Dansby, and like Max. And I don't know how Ronald would not be the next on that list unless they trade him.
I was thinking my whole thought process here in terms of obviously if Ronald goes, the fandom's not changing. Still going to support the Braves. My whole thought process in terms of why I believe they should and hopefully will, although Bill makes really good points, is why are you letting Dansby, Freddie, and all those guys go if you're not doing it for something? Because like you could have got Freddie on a shorter term deal as opposed to you're probably going to have to sign Acuna to like a decade plus. But I don't know. I mean, look, we're probably going to see Ozzie walk out the door, and you can't really argue that. Like he isn't the player he used to be.
The one that solidified it for me, though, I mean, the Dansby thing, I think Chicago paid too much. I can understand that one.
Yeah.
The Freddie thing, it was a shortened season. They couldn't talk. And now you can go back. The Braves should have done it earlier. They didn't. Okay, that was a disaster. The Max Fried one for me solidified it because they should have signed his ass immediately. And when they just said bye-bye, that was the one that did it for me, Bill. I was like,
well,
this
they didn't even
organization's not
try.
gonna sign him. Exactly.
No,
they did not even try.
They didn't even try. And look, I mean, you guys know, I mean, I was the loudest for 3 years leading up to Max's free agency. Do not let this boy walk out the door. You don't find pitchers like Max Fried very often. And when you do, you got to hold on to them. And the only reason I know the reason they didn't sign him. They didn't sign him because he had Tommy John surgery in 2013, and they thought that his arm was going to give out again at some point over the course of this next contract. My argument was, okay, what if it does? Then you know what? Who is most suited to come back from a second Tommy John or a second major operation than Max Fried? If you knew him, you knew what kind of competitor he is. You knew what kind of pitcher and person he was. He's your guy. You don't want to let that walk away. And then I just think that it's so hard to find those type of upper echelon. Here we are trying to look for one. He's saying, well, I want a playoff starter. You had one and you let him walk out the door and walk to New York. And I know New York paid him a lot of money, and people may say, well, I wouldn't have given him all that money for 7 years. But Max Fried was a special kid. And you know, look, and Harrison, you'll learn this as you go along here, interviewing people and everything. But sometimes when you interview, especially young prospects or young college football players or college athletes, you can kind of tell if they're full of shit or if they're really kind of sincere about how they are. I mean, for example, 26 years ago, I was in spring training with the Braves, and there was this kid from Brunswick, Georgia, named Adam Wainwright, who had been their first round pick the year before. And I'm like, oh my God, he's going to be a star pitcher in the big leagues. And I cried the night they traded him because of that. And sure enough, he won 200 games in the big leagues. Sometimes you can just tell by listening to them and talking to them and seeing what they do. And there was no question in my mind that Max Fried is he going to live up to that next contract in New York? I don't know. I mean, he did in year one. Will he in year 5 or 6 or 7? I don't know. But it's about having them in your grasp and letting them walk out the door. And you can make the same argument for Acuna, right? If Acuna stays healthy, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and you're going to let him walk out the door when he's 30 years old or 31. Okay, that's a good argument to make. But if your organization has not shown that they're going to go to that level financially to pay a player, I mean, even if you go to 35 million, what Andy said, that's 13 million more than anybody else on the team.
Yeah.
Hell, the only player they've even shown interest in going over 22.5 million was Aaron Nola a few years ago. And they couldn't even get him to leave Philadelphia. So if they're not going to sign him, if it's unlikely they would give him financially what he would want, if they are afraid he's going to walk out the door, then learn from what you did with Freddie and Max and Dansby and trade them instead. And your farm system is shit right now. You need help with your farm system. I don't know what if Acuna has another injury plagued year? What if something happens where he only plays 95 games again and that trade value is not going to be very good. It's going to decrease as you get closer to the end of the contract. So, I'd trade him today. I would, but they don't have the balls, Harrison, to do it, so don't worry about it.
And I will say, though, on the flip side, if he's healthy, and we don't know that, we've seen he's had some injury issues. If he is healthy, he is one of, if not the best player outside of that
He's the
certain young man.
MVP.
Yeah, he's the best player. So
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
So if
and
he stays healthy the next 3 years, how much is he going to be worth?
if he stays healthy the next 3 years, he'll get a 10-year, $400 million contract. He'll be making 40.
Probably
Yeah, there you go.
I,
Yeah, he may get 50.
I think it's 500 million.
Right.
That's right.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be 800 like what Doofus Bowden said, but I think it could be. I think he could want 10 years and 50 million. So even if he says, "Well, I love the Braves. I'm going to stay with the Braves," so forth, so on. Okay, I'm going to give a discount. All right, you're going to give him $40 million. And Harrison, I just don't think this organization. That's why I am pleading and advocating for the ability for Elon Musk to buy this team. We don't give a rat shit about the new luxury tax if our man Elon will buy the Braves. And I really want him to be a Georgia fan, so he'll come in and buy the daggone Bulldogs too, and we can buy any daggone player we want.
There we go.
Yep.
I think we all agree on this, and I will. I get your point, JC, and that's kind of where I stand. It's like, if you trade him now, what do you ask in return that you value more than his final 3 years? But I guess adding on to this, I think everybody on the screen right now and in the comments is all on board in terms of, okay, if you're going to continue to be cheap in the future, then why not go all in this closing window and surround this roster with as much talent as possible? Because at the end of Ronald's contract, you're not going to re-sign him. So why not try to win now at all cost as opposed to being in the middle and potentially not winning anything?
I agree. I don't disagree with that at all. Now, as far as who would give you enough to justify trading him for and giving up 3 years of whatever he could give you, this is just an example, okay? But me and a buddy of mine who we talk about this all the time, and because I just think Acuna is all about Acuna. And I don't think we need to forget that the Braves won the World Series without him in 2021. Yeah. And I think he's an elite talent, but today he didn't even run out of the box the first daggum swing of the bat in spring training. He hit a ball all the way to the wall, hit it halfway to the daggum Gulf of America. The damn thing hit off the wall, and he had a single. It's like, dude, no, this is why Brian Snitker lost his hair. And now, and it's like, come on, man. But my buddy and I have talked about, okay, I'm calling Detroit. And I'm saying I want Kevin McGonigal, who's the shortstop prospect, and Max Clark. They're two of the top 10 rather, prospects in the game. Top 8. McGonigal's 2, Clark is 8. That was at the end of last year. And I'm that's the kind of move I want to try to make for him and get some pitching as well. But, and that may mean it's going to be a little bit different team, but again, what gets back to that ability and availability thing. Is he going to? If you tell me right now, Harrison, Ronald Acuna for the next 12 seasons is going to give you 150 games on average.
Sign me up. Yep.
Yep.
Is that a checkbook? Harrison probably doesn't know what that is.
Open checkbook.
Checkbook. I write one check a month out of it. Here it is. Here, Ronald.
Open book. That's right.
But and so it's not like I'm anti-Acuna. I'm anti-worried about whether or not he's going to be able to stay healthy. And if you want to look at how teams get in trouble, try to see the teams that give these huge contracts and don't get their return on investment because players get hurt. I don't want that to happen to the Braves, considering the fact that Acuna has had several times injuries that have kept him out for large portions of the season.
That's what it makes me fume in terms of they had an Iron Man in Freddie Freeman in the face of the franchise and let the guy walk. And now you're in a predicament where Freddie wasn't asking for this historic deal. He wasn't asking for much more than what he's currently making now in Los Angeles. All said after, I don't understand the decision making in all of this because it doesn't make sense. For a little bit, it seemed like, okay, they're saving up to get Acuna. Now it's like, all right, maybe they're just saving up to save up for saving's sake. But
Terry McGurk's the reason they didn't re-sign Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman wanted a 6-year, and Terry McGurk said no.
Yeah.
I mean, and all throughout 2021, it would have been easy before the end of the regular season, before the end of the playoffs, the end of the World Series, to get Freddie Freeman signed up. I mean, Eddie can tell you, I sat on the show the entire year of 2021. I'm like, you dumbasses are going to see him sign with Los Angeles about 24 hours after you let him go. And what happened, Eddie? He was walking through the damn complex in Arizona about 24 hours after they acquired Matt Olson because it was over. But that was all Terry McGurk. That was all Terry McGurk not agreeing to that 6-year. I think Alex wanted it to be a 6-year, and I think Terry McGurk said no. And there, like Eddie said about Dansby. I mean, and I love Dansby, and he's not going. That's an example of someone who probably is not going to justify their contract, right? I mean, he's making what average of 27 a year.
I think it's like 26 a year. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to be in his mid-30s and so forth. But if you'd have locked him up before that happened, it might not have gotten to that point. And but the Freddie and Max situations are inexcusable. There's no way. And again, I know why they did not re-sign Max Fried, because they think his elbow's going to pop again. Pure and simple. They're like, all right, what's the lifespan for the average ulnar collateral ligament that is replaced? And I don't know what that number is, but it falls within the scope of when he would be in his new contract. And they were like, well, we're not going to do that if he's going to pop it again. And we'll see if he does or not.
Just quickly along those lines, Clay and I, my middle son and I, went to the parade after the Braves won, and we went to we got in the stadium afterwards when they did the presentation and all that. And I will never forget this: Charlie Morton getting up on stage and basically throwing it in the organization's face and saying, "Sign Freddie Freeman."
I think you forgot, because that was Dansby Swanson.
It was Dansby,
so you might have forgot it, but
no,
it
was Freddie Freeman, wasn't it?
It was Dansby Swanson. He said, and I may get in trouble for this.
Charlie Morton did too.
Well, Charlie
may have said
Charlie
said it too.
Yeah, and he said something along those lines, but I think Dansby's more direct.
Yeah, Dansby said
he was. Charlie Morton, right? Okay, whatever. There were. You get my point, right? You got players on the organization saying, "Hey, management, wake up! Sign this guy. He's the leader. He's the linchpin." And they're just like, "Whatever."
And look, someone said Olsen was a pretty good replacement. I like Olsen.
No, it has nothing to do with Olsen.
I do as well.
And you know what? There is a very good chance that when we look at the numbers for Freddie in Los Angeles during his contract and the numbers for Matt in the same years in his contract, Matt is going to be better.
Yeah.
But this is about winning. This and Freddie wasn't the best leader of the team, but Freddie was the glue of the team. Freddie was a big part of the team. Freddie was someone who was, I mean, he came up in 2010, for crying out loud, right? He's been there a long time, and he's going to go to Cooperstown. You're going to let somebody who was going to Cooperstown, and we knew that when he left.
Yeah,
we knew that before the home run of the World Series against the Dodgers. We knew that Freddie was on track to go to Cooperstown. You're going to let someone like that walk out the door? And again, people may say, well, why are you letting Acuna walk out the door? Well, because we've seen what's happened here with these others, and if it happens, they're going to be left stranded, and you can't have that happen, not with a farm system that's in the shape the Braves is in.
Well, I think we'll end it for the Braves right there, because we also have at least 2 other segments we want to get through tonight. Bill, as you may know, the Falcons have made some moves this offseason. I know free agency has yet to start, and the NFL Combine starts on Tuesday.
Wake up.
Let's start. And look, I'm sure there's a majority on here who already have heard your thoughts on this new regime. But for those who don't, I want to get your thoughts on this new regime. Is it as optimistic as it could possibly be? Are you buying that there is new blood and there will be a new way of doing things in Atlanta?
Is it as much as it would be if John Harbaugh was the coach? No, but I think that being said, it should be as positive as possible, knowing that there seems to be structure in place. There seems to be a leader in place in Matt Ryan, and there's some separation of roles that I think, at least right now, will be in order moving forward. And I think that they hired a coach who I think he's going to do a good job. I think he's going to be a good coach. I think he was good in Cleveland in a rough situation, and I think that you've got to think that this is a better situation than Cleveland. He laughed.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hoping it's true. But I am optimistic, and Harrison, look, Eddie and I have lived through this for a long time, many years, and we've had these stretches where we felt optimism, and then turn around and our rookie of the year gets caught for being in a Miami Vice episode and thrown on the ground, like there's a bunch of ICE officers on top of him, sending him to Venezuela, and then he's screwed. I mean, but I am optimistic, and I want to be optimistic, and I would release James Pierce's ass so fast he wouldn't know what hit him.
Oh, you would?
Well,
You'd release him right now.
Absolutely.
Would
you talk
really?
about the years y'all have been watching. I mean, Eddie looks like he's been watching for much longer than you. Look at the gray on his hair.
This is legit black hair. This is not colored. I want you to know.
It's dyed. It's dyed.
It's not dyed. It's legit. We're all legit.
Andy, Eddie,
yeah. Before we get off the Falcons, I do want to ask. So, what do you think about the quarterback situation? Who do you think opens up day one, opening day? Who do you think is going to be?
Stowe's been putting everybody on the spot week after week on this one.
I put my answer in the show notes, so we'll see if Bill hits it.
Well, I don't know. We're not supposed to not have an answer for stuff like that, right? I wish I said, "Oh, go get Malik or go get Tua," or I saw a picture of Tua yesterday. He looked fatter than me. I don't know, Harrison, about who to get for the quarterback. I think they're going to release Cousins before March 13th because of the savings they're going to get on the salary cap. There's no question about that.
Yeah. And
then so we'll have Michael Penix and then blank. And I don't know who to go target. Is it Mac Jones?
Do you think it could be Kirk Cousins though? Do you think they could cut Kirk Cousins and then re-sign him?
Why would Kirk come back? He's pissed off twice now. Why would he come back?
I think he's pretty. I would be surprised by that. I mean, nothing should shock us, right? I mean, I guess it could happen.
Is there another team that wants him? Is my thing. So he may say, "Hey, at least I can get a shot with the Atlanta."
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the sad thing is, if Michael Penix was healthy, I would be all in on Michael Penix.
Yeah, me too.
Mainly because I think, and we saw this 2 weeks ago, the NFL has a propensity to give up on quarterbacks too prematurely. And I think you have to be very careful about that, especially if you spend the 8th pick in the first round on a player like that.
Exactly.
And and I'm not convinced about Michael Penix. I don't know. I mean, sure, there was things that I liked and things that I didn't like, and it kind of made me on the fence about him. But I think we need to see more without throwing him to the wolves like he's some Sam Darnold type, right?
And with a coaching staff that is not just completely lost, out there in left field.
Look at that video board.
Right. I mean,
Bill, I would agree with you, Bill, but I'm going to push back on Michael Penix. I was 100% in with Michael Penix. These guys will tell you. I love the draft pick. I thought he was awesome in college. 3rd major knee injury.
Yeah.
He's damaged goods to me. I don't care how long he's played or not played in the NFL. To me, I'd move on from him just because of that. He's 26. I don't like it.
I'm skeptical. I am skeptical. But so what do? Do you go get Stetson Bennett and say, "Here's Stetson. Here's keys to the Cadillac. You got it, brother."
Yes.
Do you give Mac? Did you trade for Mac Jones? Who's got
Mac Jones? I'd do it. Yeah.
Well, so if you go that direction, then you still have to monitor the recovery of Michael Penix. You're not going to release Michael Penix. I don't think you can do that. Especially with the dumbass owner saying, "Oh, I like Michael Penix."
Yeah.
So they're not going to do that, whether they should or not, right? And that was stupid of him to say.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what do you do? What do you do? And do you go get another veteran like they tried to do with Kirk Cousins a couple of years ago and bring him in like that and say, "Okay, Michael Penix, if you get back, you're the backup and you're shit out of luck." Or do you bring in someone who can be like a project? I mean, there's so many different areas they can go. I mean, some people said, well, they're going to bring in Joe Flacco and put a Band-Aid on this. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they got to have some sort of mindset, I believe, at the least, of what they feel like the potential is for Penix. When Penix gets back from this injury, if he is healthy, what is he? And they've got to try to define that before they make the decisions on the quarterback here in the next couple of weeks.
Do you think it matters? Do you think it matters, Bill? One more thing, Harrison, that Matt Ryan, Kevin Stefanski, etc. It's Kevin Stefanski and Ian. What's his name? Ian Cunningham had nothing to do with Michael Penix. This was not their pick. This was another regime's pick.
Yeah.
So they could very well. I know Matt Ryan says, "Well, he's our guy. He's saying all the right things. He's got to say that now." But they very well could be thinking, we're going to move on from this. This is not what we had in mind, right?
They could, absolutely. And you always have to keep in mind, John Coppolella taught me this about a decade ago before he got banished away. You always have to think about the fact that when a new regime comes in, those players, they're not emotionally tied to those players.
Yeah.
There's no emotion with the new guard with Michael Penix compared to if Terry Fontenot had remained, right, or if Raheem Morris, God forbid, had stayed. So, I mean, you've got a totally new mindset. And unfortunately, you know what? I'd feel a lot better about that possibility, Eddie, if the dumbass owner had not said what he said in the press conference.
Yep.
But it's obviously what he said about the defensive coordinator made a difference because they kept him. And Stefanski said, I didn't know him. I didn't know Jeff Ulbrich. I wouldn't have known Jeff Ulbrich if he walked by me. So, unfortunately, we have to keep that as an option. But yeah, I mean, I think if they're not emotionally tied to him, then they're not emotionally tied to any of them, right? I mean, so if they feel like James Pierce is a problem, they're going to release him, I think, and they'll let him go. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see, and it's going to be a long wait to find out how it turns out too. Because look, I'm interested in Stetson. I'd love for Stetson to get the opportunity. I mean, we're not very objective on that, right?
No, we're not at all.
we're not, but I'd love to see Stetson get the opportunity to play and here's your job. I don't know if they'll do that or not. Could Mac Jones come here and be decent? I think he could, maybe. And maybe with this coaching staff with Stefanski and the guys they brought in, maybe Michael Penix could too, because he's had shit coaching the last 2 years. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up, and somebody put it in the show notes. I don't know if it was Stowe or if it was Eddie. I'm going to assume Eddie doesn't really take a look at the show notes. I'm going to assume it was Andy. Proposed this. What would you think about Geno Smith if the Falcons were?
That was me, dickhead. That was me.
All right. Well, there we go. You didn't bring it up, so I pulled up his contract here with Over the Cap, and obviously immediately this hits you in the face. Like, that's a huge cap number. Obviously, that hits you as a cap number. But what's interesting here is, obviously, you get into 2027, 0 salary guaranteed in 2027. Which, if my NFL economics are correct, that means they can cut him pretty much without having penalty after 2026. Yeah. I don't know what it would take to bring him in terms of what the Raiders want, but it seems pretty cut and dry that they're moving on and drafting a quarterback this offseason. Yep. Bill, this seems outside. I don't know. Maybe Eddie saw it somewhere else and was like, hey, wouldn't mind asking Bill about this. I don't know where the idea came from. What are your thoughts on this subject?
There's always a shot in there.
I think that Geno's 35, 36. He's older. They balance. I mean, he's have to be on my list, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you'd have to.
Yeah, you just said Joe Flacco a minute ago. I mean, is he any younger?
No, he's 47.
Phillip Rivers, boys.
Yeah. That's right. But they've got to have a list of current starters who may be available, current backups who may be available, who may be ready for that next opportunity, right?
And
the
potential cuts. Yeah.
And then the older players who may be ready to lose their job, like a Geno Smith. They got to have several different lists on an Excel spreadsheet and like, okay, which one of these guys stand out for us? And the ones that have more suitable contracts, are going to be looked at more favorably, I guess. So that may put Geno back a little bit on the list. But I think at this point you've got to consider anybody. I mean, the one thing about 2 years ago when they drafted Penix, everybody was all upset about it, and I understand completely because it was odd. There was no question about it. It was handled poorly, no question about that. But they at least were trying to settle something that when is unstable is a black hole on your team. You cannot have a quarterback problem in the NFL. You just can't. And they were trying to address that. Again, they didn't do it very well, handle it very correctly by any means. That's what pissed Kirk Cousins off, and I don't blame him. But they got a man crush on a quarterback in Michael Penix, and they decided to get him. And so now it's turned sideways because it's the Falcons. It's going to happen. Cousins looked old. He looked like and we know he's not happy. We know he's pissed off. Boom, he's going to be released. And now you got Penix hurt again, which, should they have taken that into consideration? What if he got hurt again? So forth and so on. So and I said this, Harrison, when everybody was screaming about Matt Ryan 5 years ago, I said, you got to be careful now. I know Matt can drive us crazy. I mean, he needs to go to the buffet and gain a little weight so that he won't break the rib when he slides, 2 feet short of a first down, as he always did. But he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he's a franchise quarterback, and those are so hard to find. So, and the thing is, there's not going to be a bigger decision that they probably make than what happens at that position as they walk in the door now of taking over this team.
Yeah. Well, Bill, we only got a few minutes left, but I did want
to get I do this show for 3 hours. What do y'all got?
Hey, Harrison, before we go any further, let's hump Bill's show. Put it back up, the superstations.com, how to listen to him. Can you put that back up, please?
Yeah.
Yep. That's in the works right now.
All right.
Bill, it's only fitting because Eddie uses your platform to pump up the show. So we want to pay it back. And I know you deal with Mr. Acworth more than we do on a weekly basis. So we also have to have some sympathy for that. We appreciate you for putting up with him because, my God, I mean, you see, Paul's not up here on the screen anymore. He didn't want to deal with him anymore.
Yeah, Paul left. He didn't want to hear my vulgarity, damn it, and he didn't want to deal with Eddie any longer. He just left. Well, and first of all, don't you love the fact that I have that picture from 2013?
I was about to say that's a very young Bill Shanks right there.
Old.
The hair's still black, baby. Unlike some people on this show, I can tell you that. Yeah. I wasn't. Yeah, that looks pretty good. No, Andy, have you shared with everybody the theme song that Eddie has?
Mr. Ed, he comes on every day. You have to hear the horse going. You got Mr. Ed coming in, so it's.
I know he hates
I'm just proud. I'm just proud. I'm the only caller that actually has a walk-up song on the Bill Shanks show, and it's Mr. Ed.
And that is true because I listen. I don't call in like Eddie does. I mean, Eddie loves to hear his own voice, so he has to call. But
that's apparent.
Wow.
I listen.
Wow. Like I said, it's always a shot. Always.
But I listen to Bill's show every day, and I listen on the superstations.com, and it's nobody knows the Atlanta Braves like Bill Shanks. So if you're a Braves fan, listen to Bill Shanks. He will give you all the information.
Dogs fan too.
100%. And of course, midday you got Jeff Danzler, so you got all those guys. So it's great radio station.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get Harrison on to come on as a guest, and if Roddy will let him, and have our ratings go sky high. So
I'm open whenever. We're
okay.
Open whenever.
Right.
We really do appreciate you for coming on here. I know before we let you go, because we only got a couple minutes left. We wanted to get your thoughts. Let's start with baseball. You are the smartest baseball person up here. Usually that title's reserved for Stowe, but he's been outgained. What are your thoughts on Wes Johnson and the team he's built this season? And I guess to add to that, I don't know if you saw the statement he put out yesterday, but it was quite emphatic.
It was.
Well, he put one out today, too. He put one out today, too.
Another one. I guess just thoughts on the Dogs and the Diamond.
To answer Oben Okanobi 919, yes, I taught Georgia baseball, basketball, and I even taught football. A lot.
Just a little bit. Just
a lot.
Football's only 365 days a year.
When the Braves lose on a Tuesday night to Philadelphia 5-3 in 10 innings, I turn around the next day and talk about the backup secondary for Georgia. So
that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
He sure does.
I don't know what he was talking about yesterday. Have we ever figured that out of what the heck was going on? I mean, Harrison, you got any scoopage on what that was all about? It was kind of.
I have a theory. I was
asking Harrison, shut up.
No, it's our show, Bill. This is our show.
Harrison, have you got any scoopage on that?
I have a
don't.
theory. Harrison covered the team that day for the first time, and Wes Johnson was pissed off at Harrison. So,
and honestly, it probably was. He didn't see Dash, and he's like, "All right, I don't even want to endure this anymore." And he decided he didn't want to take cautions.
Yeah, I mean,
he was very strange. Very strange.
He had his panties in a wad. It's like, holy.
Harrison, why don't you set it up? Tell the listeners what we're talking about, Harrison.
Actually, I guess if we have time, we can go ahead and play it.
Yeah.
Well, the internet.
It's only 56 seconds. The entire interview was 56 seconds. And it really wasn't much of an interview.
And this is coming off. We beat Samford. What, Andy? Do you
remember? It was 12-5, I think, yesterday, right?
12-5. Okay.
And then they won, but they won 22-0 today. That's whatever he was mad about. They sure did work it out today.
All right. This was Wes Johnson after the game.
Look at his eyes.
I know. He's ready to kill somebody.
Yeah, we need to talk about some things first. I'm gonna make an opening statement here. Like people have got to understand that at the University of Georgia, we challenge our players to do hard things, really hard things. And when people want to, and so when we challenge them to do hard things, that's what we want. We want players who, when they show up, they're not hunting a 12-month payday. They're hunting a path for a 12-year career, okay? So if we're going to go out and people are going to be incompetent and lazy and all this and take whatever they read on social media at face value and talk about the dogs, then we don't want them around our program or our players. Are we good? Y'all have a great day.
I want to tell you what the first thing I thought of was he had money on Kansas, and he's really pissed that Peterson left again.
That's exactly what it was.
I mean, holy crap. If Bill Self had made that statement, we didn't know what it was about. I mean, seriously, what did we have? We said, okay, he's pissed about the fact that Denise Peterson won't play more than however many minutes. But
to be fair, I was kidding earlier. Harrison, you were there when that happened. You were standing right there and completely caught off guard, right? You were like, whoa, what just happened, right?
Everybody in that group.
Yeah.
Because he's never done it before, to my recollection.
So did you do the noble thing and blame Olivia?
I don't know who to blame. I'm getting blamed, obviously. You just saw that.
But it was totally bizarre. Then today he kind of just he tried to clean it up a little bit, but it still didn't make any sense to me. Harrison and Andy on the text thread to us were like, "Oh, he's motivating his team," but that didn't seem like he was motivating his team. He was lashing out at the reporters.
I know.
It was just
weird. It was just there's two different.
It was two things. There were because one he was taking a shot at the players, and then the other he was saying, and the media sucks too. So it was a weird thing.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Somebody and I thought about this, Harrison. Did somebody on that roster threaten not to play?
That's what I wondered, and I was curious if it was like there was, hey, I want more money, and he said I'm not playing, so he's like, screw him. So,
I mean, I hate to. I mean, his speech is going to lead to speculation, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to make people, the four of us, wonder, WTF? What in the world could he be talking about? Especially since you're winning, since everything's going great, and it's like. Okay, is there a player? Because this stuff's happening now, guys, where players are coming in and saying, I didn't get my check in.
It's happening everywhere.
Something like that. I mean, you never know these days. The most crazy thing you can think of that may be happening is happening these days in college athletics. And 100%. So that response was almost like, did someone player make kind of – because he was talking about the paycheck and – so I wonder if somebody really pissed him off where he wanted that message out there for that particular player, maybe. Because I know one thing in that video, our boy Lakos Harrison, he looked like, what am I stepping into right now? Because he was kind of away from it, and all of a sudden, like, what the heck's going on here? So I don't know. It was something.
Well, we don't know about that. We have no idea what that was. But what about the team itself, Bill? What do you think this team? What is
Well,
the
they came
ceiling?
out and responded today. What, 22-0? Is that what
22-0.
you said, Andy?
Yeah,
Sure.
but what is the ceiling for this team? Is this a team that can go to the World Series? I mean,
Well,
could
their pitching looks like it can, right?
agree. I think so.
It looks deeper. It looks like it's. I mean, that Volchko was mentioned in a mock draft at the end of the draft to the Braves, actually, which they're just letting players now. I mean, who knows what's going on? But still, it was. These are late first round picks, so I want to see more of him. I hate that Ishikawa got hurt. I mean, that sounds too good, does it, Harrison? About how long he could be out. Sounds like it may be a while. I know they're saying week to week, but it sounds like it may be a little bit longer than that.
They said maybe when the SEC teams start. That's not too bad.
And that would be what, kind of end of March?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I have the schedule right here. So
So I mean, I love the pitching. I mean, look, he's a pitching guy, and he wanted to improve the pitching. Right, he wanted to get more and deeper pitching on the staff, and I think he's done that. And he's all about the transfer portal, which is obviously an interesting way to create your team. And
Athletics.
it is, but he's going extreme. I mean, he's what, Harrison, 90% transfer portal. I mean, he's pretty high percentage there, transfer portal. So, but I can't wait to watch him and can't wait to see him. And SEC's loaded again. Alabama and Mississippi State's got that damn pitcher, looks like a friggin' beast. That lefty, what's his name? Named after the guy on TV. What's his name? I can't think of his name now. Anyway, he's a beast, but it's a lot of great games. I think we're going to be treated to a fun season, and hopefully when they get to the postseason, they can be healthy and the pitching can be something that can carry him there. I'm sure that's what he's banking him on, and they're hitting the ball right now too, so that's fun.
Yeah, they're killing the ball, and they do open up SEC play on Friday, March 13th. So yeah, we're about 3 weeks away. March 13th. What's so special about that day?
That's a great day.
The same age as me. He would become the same age as me.
That's when I become halfway to 112, and I reach Eddie's age.
But you're still younger than Eddie, so he's always going to be older.
Yeah,
that's right. Jack Bauer is his name. Yeah, that kid's unbelievable.
I will say the one thing that struck me about this team is they seem, I think some people were wondering about the power, like, how are they going to stack up to past teams? I'm not sure if their lineup is stacked with all these power hitters compared to maybe what they had 2 years ago, but they can still hit the ball out of the yard. And I'm not frankly shocked, Bill, because that's what Foley Field's designed to do. You're supposed to be able to get the ball out of the yard. For me, it's just, I want to see them kind of carry it over on the road. Like you saw them in the series last year versus Texas struggle to get anything going. And that's the one thing, like, I expect them to play really well at home, and they have so far. I want to see what happens when they take that step and they got to go on the road and play in these ballparks, but may not be as hitter friendly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I agree. I think that's going to be a test for them. They are doing well so far, and they look like they're a power hitting team, and they look like they're going to be fun to watch. Right? It's great to see a team that may have a real chance at going all the way. And so, yeah, I'm excited about it and like what I've seen so far, and you can hear the games on the superstations.com.
You can. That's how I listen to them. So that's the way I listen.
Real quick, we'll wrap up with this. Georgia basketball, big win over the weekend. That's 2 wins in a row for the Hoop Dogs. Wins over Kentucky and Texas. Obviously, Texas and Georgia both seem like it was a playing game is what it was kind of being billed as.
Yes,
Eddie, I know you'll want to weigh in here. Eddie and Bill, kind of thoughts on the Dogs and their outlook towards March Madness as we get to the final 4 games of the regular season.
Well, I'll just say before I kick it to you, Bill, I literally think the Kentucky win this year, maybe the Florida win from last year where it saved the season. You remember that? And the Kentucky win this year may have propelled this team because I think they lost 4 in a row. Now I know Jeremiah Wilkinson was out. He came back for that game, had a big game, came back also against Texas, had a big game. He's the linchpin of this team, and I think they're in at this point, right? But we need to see Mike White's team, if they get in, and I think they will, get past weekend 1, or past game 1. I am so tired of watching this team fight like hell to get to the tourney and just bow out in the first weekend, and you're done. Get a win in the tourney. Give us 2 and get to the Sweet 16. How sweet would that be? But what do you think, Bill? What's the ceiling?
Well, I agree with you. I think it's going to come down to matchup of who they would play in that first round game. Of course, like it is for every game, but still, they get a team that's more physical than they are. They may have trouble with that of getting a first round win. I love a first round win. I just want to keep making positive steps and don't go backwards. That's what before the Kentucky game, it's like, man, they're getting ready to take a step backwards. They could not afford to do that. And then, Kentucky gave them a step forward, a huge win on the road that they desperately needed. And then they go back and beat a team that beat them by 20 points on the road at home like they did yesterday. It was a huge, huge plus. So, I think it's they got to keep everybody healthy. They got to keep everybody in the lineup. Who's this freshman that has played a little bit more as of late? What's his name?
Kareem Stagg.
So here's my question to you, Harrison. Can he help make a difference here in the stretch drive?
We've talked about this. I think it was last week. What it really I think helps him in terms of Georgia's offense is he's one of the few that can kind of play inside out, where he can shoot the 3 ball, but also kind of be a post presence and help out. And I think with the spacing, when you have everybody fully healthy and everybody in there, I think it helps Somto a little bit because it makes it a little bit harder to crowd the paint in terms of you can't have 2 bigs on him because he's playing next to a guy who really can't shoot. I like the energy he brings. I know Mike White's complimented him on that.
Yeah.
I think he does have the ability just in terms of maybe not from like a stat sheet perspective, but just in terms of the spacing he provides. I think he could kind of have an impact down the stretch here. I think he already has.
That could be a big thing, right? To kind of have someone like later in the year to come up and be able to contribute in a different way than you had earlier in the season. And so, I think it'd be great to be able to have them get the tournament, win a game, and just keep on that forward. But they got to go get a star. They got to go find. I mean, next Caleb Wilson, who comes out of Holy Innocents, does not need to go to North Carolina. We got to. Eddie from Acworth needs to spend a lot of money putting money in that NIL fund to get somebody who can come and be a star for that team.
Well, I would push back a little bit. Jeremiah
Wilkinson on the house renovations, Eddie, and propose it for the NIL at Georgia.
Jeremiah Wilkinson is a hell of a basketball player when he's
he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. No. I'm talking about are the people who are the elite players in this sport who are getting ready to go in the first round of the draft.
Right. And my ceiling is my ceiling for Georgia basketball is a lot lower than yours. And for what
you're a loser.
Watched, Bill,
then you're a loser.
No. I'm a realist because I understand where we are with this program.
You don't think we can attract a star?
No, I don't.
We can attract a star if rich bastard alumni like you will put money into basketball and not just into football. I'm serious. I'm serious.
So you're blaming me for this? You're blaming
everybody blames you for
by the way,
everything.
didn't Ant-Man run through our program? Ant-Man, we had Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a superstar?
That was Tom Crean.
How'd that work out, Bill?
That was Tom Crean. Tom Crean.
Oh, okay.
Tom Crean liked my book that I wrote 20 years ago.
I didn't hire the right coach as the money guy. Is that what you're saying?
You and Don Lieberman, I mean, y'all just kind of No, look, seriously. They got to have a Harrison, I've not been a big basketball fan for a long time, Harrison, because we've sucked, right? I mean, the program has not been very good. And so it's not like college basketball has been a big topic of conversation on the Bill Shanks show. I'm just being totally honest. Right. And I've watched more basketball this year because of the Atlanta Hawks possibly having a number 1 draft pick than I have, truthfully, since I was in college. And I've seen what kind of elite talent I'm talking about. I'm talking about a Caleb Wilson. I don't think he may get an AJ DeBanza. That guy's crazy. And look, I mean, BYU paid $7 million to AJ DeBanza. Denise Peterson got $3 million. But if there's a player out there that can be bought, they need to try to do that. They need a player like that. They need to try to attract that kind of player because these guys are one and done anyway. And you have to, and okay, we had Asa Newell, right? And you know what? They got to the tournament. And he was a one and done, and they got to the tournament. I don't think that Jeremiah Wilkinson's even an Asa Newell type player. I think the kind of player I'm talking about is like the ones I've seen. My gosh, these guys, I want a Keaton Wagler to fall into our lap.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we need a little bit of luck with that. We need a little bit. I mean, and along with Wagler, they got some of those other kids that we've talked about on Illinois, Eddie, that we've talked about for a second round that are really good complementary players. And I don't see any Georgia player on any mock draft I see. So they got to get somebody like that to get to that next level. So we won't be trying to squeak in as 11 seed.
Yeah.
So that we can be hey, there's a 6 seed Georgia team. What are they going to do in the Midwest region or something like that? That's what I hope is the next step for them after they get back to the tournament this year, which that ought to be their goal. Their goal ought to be, okay, we've gotten better. We're so far above where we were when we walked in the door, right?
No
There's
doubt.
no question about that. It's night and day difference. But what's next? Well, what's next is identifying somebody that we can throw a bunch of money to and get them to come play for a year, because that's what
fair.
we were having this conversation last night, as a matter of fact, at our table. And we were talking about AJ DeBanza getting $7 million. And we were like, what's the return on investment for BYU? And that's a real good question for that type situation. Kansas paid $3 million for Denise Peterson. And you can already tell the pressure on Bill Self about that return on the investment is dwindling, right? Because you can tell he's getting a little pressure. The screws are being tightened a little bit on Bill Self because they're losing with him in the lineup. But it's probably because we paid $3 freaking million to this cat, and he won't play about half the games. So, you know, what is your return on the investment? Well, you got to select the right kid. You got to hope it's an AJ DeBanza, not a Denise Peterson. You got to hope it's a kid who wants to play hard no matter what his agent tells him. You got to hope it's somebody who plays hard no matter what he looks like at the mock. I mean, I think Denise Peterson truly is going to on ceilingsnba.com and creaming in his pants when he watches the mock drafts. and he thinks, I can't get hurt. I can't screw this up. I'm going to be the number 1 pick of the draft. So you got to pick the right player, right? And I think that's what is next for Mike White to try to do.
I watched a kid last night who was impressive to me, Bill. I know you're as high on him as I am, but Boozer for Duke. Boozer is a badass.
Oh, well, I'm not going to.
I love him.
Would you take him over Caleb Wilson?
I would right now. Caleb Wilson's done for the year. We're going to see Boozer throughout this tournament, and he's going to get better. But Boozer's a leader. He does everything well. I love Boozer. I'm higher than him.
I do too, but you do have to worry about the overlap with Jalen Johnson and how it could be.
But isn't that an overlap with Caleb Wilson and AJ DeBanza too?
Well, because I think they're different players. I think
Caleb Wilson will play the 2, right?
Well, I think
lineup that's currently constructed.
I don't know about that.
I think Caleb Wilson's taller than Cam. He's 6'10". Cam's 6'9", but I think Caleb is more of that Kevin Garnett type, where he's not going to play a 5. He's not going to be a center in the NBA.
Right.
I mean, don't give me no 6'10", 215 center in the NBA.
No.
You know, I mean, had
killed.
A Kongwu is 6'9" and 225 and gets killed sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, but I think to me the combination of Wilson or DeBanza and Jalen is a little bit cleaner than Boozer. But I'm not going to cry if it's Boozer by no means whatsoever.
They'll figure it out. I mean, you figure it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
But I just think if you get 1-1, to me it's DeBanza. If you get 2 and DeBanza's gone, I mean, I know there will be a lot of pressure with Peterson.
I'd take Peterson right there. I'd take him. I know you call him Karen Peterson, whatever. I think he's a badass.
You know what?
Denise Peterson would be trending on Twitter if the Hawks selected him, because Bill Shanks would be having trending everywhere.
But you know, I heard last night from some people that the Hawks are already looking like that at that and shaking their head. And I didn't know this until the other day.
Shaking their head this way or this way?
Like, we're not going to draft this guy.
Way? Okay.
And part of that is because of something that was confirmed that I had read on Twitter the other day that I really didn't know. That Kevin O'Connor, I believe is his name, tweeted this out. But this stuff was going on in high school too.
Really? Oh, wow.
So this is a trend. This isn't just something that's happening recently.
Yeah. And here's my question though, Eddie. If Peterson's the pick and he comes to Atlanta, and let's say something happens, the year turns sideways. Look at what happened this year, right? It just kind of went the other direction. Yeah. You have injuries, something happens, you suck or whatever, and you're battling for 9 or 10 in February like they are right now, is Peterson going to put it neutral, not care?
Yeah.
And that's a question that those guys who interview him are going to have to ask and have answered when they interview this cat at the NBA Combine. But Caleb Wilson, I love that kid. I know he's hurt now, and he's going to be. Hopefully he'll be back for the Tar Heels. But man, him being an Atlanta kid, I love Caleb Wilson. I think Caleb Wilson's 2 on my board. And
I love Kingston Flemings and Keaton Wagler. I mean, I love those 2 guys. He
loves
too,
them all.
So.
Which one do you like best?
No, I'm just saying 1 through 6. You know,
I don't. And you know what? And somebody mentioned Acuff.
That's your guy, Paul Meharry. Paul Meharry, Bill.
Is that
Paul Meharry?
Yep. No, is that who it is?
That's Paul. Yeah.
I think Acuff is a great player, and I think I asked Jason.
But that's if we fall to like 6 or something like that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think the top 6 are in place, and I think Acuff and Mikael Brown have got to be 7 or 8.
Right.
And it's almost like after that, it's a little bit of a gray area. And then I heard an analyst say the other day, you know what, I could almost take any pick from 10 to 30 and put them in a hat and pull them out.
Yeah.
And that shows how deep it is, not how bad it is. That shows how deep it is. But I think Acuff, I mean, he didn't have 49 yesterday, but he had 20-something, I think. But, I mean, I think Acuff, and you know, I even had a guy on the other day who I asked, of these guards, who's the next best defensive guard after Flemings? And he said Philon from Alabama.
Yeah, that kid's a player.
So, you know, that was kind of interesting too. But I as long as the Hawks don't fall out of like the top 7, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
All right. Well, we have held Bill for 16 minutes past what we told him, and I don't want him blocking Mr. Acworth's number, because then Eddie's going to talk longer on here, and that's just going to get even worse for us. So, with that being said, that is the legend himself, Bill Shanks. You can find him on the Bill Shanks Show on the Super Stations weekdays at 3 to 7. I'm going to put the link in the chat because I know we've shown the website. Go check him out over there. You may or may not hear a familiar voice on there at some point. I don't know how often Eddie calls in. I know it's often.
Every day.
Pretty much every day.
Every day. It's not every day.
Harrison,
and I'm sorry, Bill.
Harrison, the important thing is that I don't mind when he doesn't call, because I still play the famous Ed.
Mr. Ed.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Bill, because to end the show, as long as you don't send the cease and desist letters.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed. A horse,
of course.
No one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed.
I hear
we'll
that.
see you next week, folks. 7:30 live here on the UGA Sports YouTube channel.
Yeah. But just a celebration when he does that little, when he's, up in the air, he's just great. He's